So Nick, how do we get these applications into Entra? I mean, we had a conversation on Twitter, debate around when you spin up an M365 tenant, how many applications does Microsoft deploy into Entra as part of the tenant? I think the number was 161.
161. There were
161. You know, and we have these conversations with customers around, do you actually know how many applications you have? And some people go, we're not sure. Oh shit, there's 1,027 applications, sitting inside of Entra. And they usually say to us, well, can you come tell us what they are? So we want to explain to you how these applications actually end up in your tenant, right? I mean, that's the important part.
Besides the fact that Alistair just used a bad word a second ago, which we're not going to pick on. This is the bluntest way of getting an application into, well, I say blunt. You've got something on premises, all right? And you can have something on premises that is a, and I'm wondering how much we should dig into this. So you've got identities that sync.
Yeah.
And I know that the Natalie police is going to come past us. But yeah, so the point on that we want to make on this is that we've got identities that sync that are then surfaced somehow. And this is our surfacing slide. And the point to this is that everything that we have that was on the previous slide in terms of apps and apps registrations that were synchronized and identities were synchronized end up here. And the issue that we've got is that everything on the top from an app registration point of view can be consumed by any one of these identities on the bottom, be they synced, be they personal, or B2B or B2C.
Yeah, it's important to, and we're going to re-emphasize this, that Entra manages applications inside of your tenant. I think that's the message here, outside of MSAL and things that, and we'll talk about MSAL when we go through the demo. So when we look at the ecosystem, there's not a myriad, but there's quite a few ways to get applications into Entra, right? I mean, this is the typical one, Nick. You like this one.
Is this the Russian roulette one?
No. We're not yet at Russian roulette. That's, I think, slide 26. Enterprise applications. Do you want to tell everyone about what this is inside of Entra?
Well, I'll talk about an enterprise application. You can talk about the other one, which is not confusing. An enterprise application is that thing that you buy from someone which sounds like they are a reputable company. So this could be an Adobe or a Salesforce or even Microsoft themselves. Now, that's not to be confused with the other kind of application that we have. Al, tell us about that one.
Okay. So if you look at the screen right now under applications, and this is the Entra Admin Center, not to be confused with Entra ID in portal.azure.com. Same, but different. There's a little thing that says app registrations. Now, we are going to talk about public versus confidential apps, but traditionally, if you're deploying a custom application, you would literally go to app registrations, create a new app. It might be a single page application or a web app, which we're also going to be talking about. And you can now add your application manually instead of going through the enterprise applications blade, which is the Adobes and the Salesforces of the world. And Nick, to what you were talking about earlier on, there's another way of getting applications, especially the applications that you're running on-prem, right? Into your environment using an application proxy. Nick, do you know of any customers that are running containers on-prem?
Sadly, I do, Al. And they run Kubernetes containers on Windows servers, and then they figure out how to publish them. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah. So typically, if you were going to spin up some sort of container registry and run Kubernetes to manage these pods, you would surface that application inside of your data center through the application proxy so that it registers as an application inside of Entra ID. This one is very important to me, right? Because this scares me. This one scares me. Now, for those that have, or for those that are managing Teams applications, right? Have you ever had a custom application deployed to Teams, right? And this is just a process flow using the Teams toolkit inside of Visual Studio, where a developer can deploy an application into the Teams App Store using the Teams toolkit. Now, you create a single page application with no security. You can deploy that, and obviously the Teams administrator is going to hit approve the application in the app, in your personalized app store, and Ninja Dust, you have an application. So those are the 4 or 5 ways, 4 or 5, I can't remember the number, 4 or 5 ways of how applications get deployed into Entra. It's not just the enterprise applications thing. There's 3 or 4 other ways of getting these applications. So we understand the why, we understand the what. We now understand how things get into your tenant. So, stay with me now. We're trying to tell a story here. And moving on from there,